What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Aaron Canola, and welcome back to the Movie Battleground. We are back for another match in our 1-0 bracket tonight, and we have two players returning who I'm very much looking forward to seeing again. Both of these guys were rookies who made their debut in the first round of matches. We have Caleb Hansen returning after playing the very first match that we produced and uploaded in the relaunch of Movie Battleground. Caleb, after quite literally years of waiting to play, made his debut and took out Frank Newberry to move into this bracket. Jordan Owens, meanwhile, has the distinction of being the only rookie who got paired up against a former champion to come out with the victory of that match. He comes into this, obviously, with that a little bit behind him, but both of these guys gave very, very solid efforts in their first match. They both have a very laid-back demeanor, which I think will make this for a very fun match. I couldn't have imagined a better pairing in terms of personality for these guys because, we have the people who are intense, they hit it hard, and then we have the people who are here for the fun of it, and I think that's what we got tonight. But no more vamping. Let's go ahead and introduce them. Up first with a record of 1 win, no defeats. He is Jordan Owens. Jordan, how is it going, sir?
Laid back? Laid back? Yeah, that's about right. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you? I was really worried we were about to have Austin Howell 2.0 in here or some shit. That was going to get real dark. How are you doing, man? Welcome back. As I said, obviously, it is a bit of a bragging rights win. The way the wheel worked in the first round of matches is all former champs, whether they be Movie Battleground or another debate league, got paired up against rookies, and you were paired up against one Papa West. And it was a hard fought match, but you did come out with that victory. So how do you feel about that, and how do you feel kind of moving into your second match?
No, man. I was happy with the match. I love Papa, but I had to look him in the eyes, say I love you, I'm sorry, and super kick his head off. And just sometimes you got to do that. But no, I'm just looking forward to playing, man. Looking forward to playing Caleb. I saw his last match, so looking forward to see how it turns out.
All right. Thank you for being here, man. I'm going to go ahead and send you to the back for just one moment as we introduce his opponent with a record as well of 1 win, no defeats. He is the man who deems himself mashed potatoes. He is Caleb Hansen. Caleb, how's it going, sir?
It's going really good. I'm excited to be here, excited to play again. I apologies to the bookers. We had to reschedule this one, so now I'm like fresh and ready to go, man. It's a weekend, and I got a beer. I'm repping a good Chicago band, and we're gonna talk about movies. It couldn't be better.
Absolutely.
Also, I'm a little bit mad at Jordan. He stole my bit. I was gonna make that same joke.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's fair. See, that's how in sync you guys are. You had the same idea. He just got to it first. No, so obviously you've had a bit of a longer layover than some competitors. It just kind of worked out that way. Jordan played much later than some of the others, so I kind of had to average you guys out so he wasn't playing too quickly. But you did win that very first match that kind of started all of this back off against Frank. A hell of a match that was. I still stand by it being probably, if not it is one of the most entertaining things I have ever seen. So just off the back of that win coming into this, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great about that win. It was a very weird match.
That's one way to describe it.
We started arguing about whether Matt Damon was a good actor or not, and that was not the question. So hopefully I'll be able to stay a little more focused on the topics at hand. I had to do more studying this time. I think I said at the end of last time I didn't do any prep work, and I actually for these questions, I had to get serious about it. I had to watch movies that I've never heard of before. I'm really happy about this, man. I'm excited to hopefully have some fun.
Absolutely. At the very least, even if this doesn't go your way by the end of it, at least you got to say you watched a movie. Hopefully it was a good one and not a bad one, because it's Movie Battleground. There's probably a bad movie question in here.
Sure. There was there were varying degrees of quality in the movies that I had to watch.
Yeah, that's fair. It's what we do. I'm going to go ahead and bring the man who has now decided to name himself Jordan French Fries Owens back into the match.
Better potato.
And
I'm never just food wise, French fries.
I'm never letting you drop that. That is sticking with you from here on out. We're going to go ahead.
I made a mistake.
We're going to go ahead and move into the match, ladies and gentlemen. Movie Battleground is a best of 5 rounds. It is the first of 3 points to win. Each round is worth 1 point. If one of our competitors does happen to get 3 points in a row tonight, that will be a victory by knockout. If we have a 2-2 tie after the first 4 questions, we will move on to the blind round, although we'll get into that in more detail should we need to. In terms of the first 4 debates, the competitors were given the questions ahead of time. They've had their time to prep. The way that it'll work is first, you guys will get a 1-minute opening. Then you will have 2 minutes to expand and kind of explain where you're going with your answer. Then there will be a 4-minute open debate in which you guys can trade blows, go back and forth, be the better potato, and get in what you can. And then you guys will have 1 minute to wrap up and surmise your arguments. Once that is all over, I am going to send you guys to the back and bring in my 3 esteemed judges in the back. And yes, steamed is because it's a potato joke. You can steam potatoes. We have Chris Diaz, Chad Webb, and Jacob West in the back. Gentlemen, I'm going to preface this match with this. Please do not judge these gentlemen based on their choice of potato, whether you are the fried kind, the mashed kind, or whatever Jacob has typed in as his name. You are all a very solid vegetable because I'm Irish and it's half of our diets. So with that said, we are going to go ahead and move into the first question. And just like how the Irish fucked up and forgot about their potatoes, you want to know somebody who fucked up and forgotten about in Hollywood? John McTiernan. That's actually not 100% true. He wasn't forgotten. He kind of just disappeared. Real story, if you guys don't know this. After directing such classics as The Predator, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and something else, McTiernan was later... Last Action Hero, thank you. McTiernan, actually, his career died because on his second to last project, he was later arrested and convicted of wiretapping a producer and then subsequently lying about that wiretapping to an officer, because that's exactly what you would do if you had a good career. But with that said, if Mr. McTiernan were to come back in the modern era, the question is, what franchise should John McTiernan direct an entry in? Based off of the films I've listed, that was to give you guys a reference point of what he's done in the past. Which series of films would McTiernan be good for? And I'm going to go ahead and get you guys timer up. And while I'm doing that, Caleb, as you are currently sitting in the favorites position by way of random wheel spin, you have the choice of which questions you wanted to go first or second on. You elected to go first on questions 2 and 4. And so as your timer now appears on screen, Jordan, you are up first. I will disappear, and that timer will keep ticking when you start speaking.
All right, so John McTiernan, as someone already said in the chat, he didn't direct The Predator, he directed the way better Predator, the original, the OG. When you think of movies like Predator, Die Hard, that's what you think of for John McTiernan. And what do you think of when you think of those? You just think of fun, ballsy, almost, I hate to say, but like, man, like just action films, man. And so what if we brought John McTiernan back? What would we want to put him in? Something that very much fits him, like an 80s, 90s throwback, and that's The Expendables, a movie where it's just about guns, dudes, maybe some great looking women. Like, I know it sounds cliched, but that's kind of what McTiernan's kind of feel to me is in. He is an 80s, 90s guy because he hasn't made a movie since the beginning of 2000. So let's put him in something that's in his wheelhouse that we know he could do. I think he could make a great looking Expendable movie. You know, he's already worked with some of those actors in other movies. Arnold in Last Action Hero, which is great. Arnold in that Die Hard with Bruce, if we bring back Bruce, if he doesn't fight about his paycheck. And I just really think it's something that he could really lend to. And, you know, it would look great, which is something I think we could need from them. And I think we would embrace him coming back to a franchise like Expendables.
And time. And on that note, the idea of Bruce Willis in the 2010s arguing about a paycheck is the funniest thing I've ever heard. Caleb, you are up next. The minute will start when you begin speaking.
I can put the timer up.
It is up. I just don't click it until you start.
Oh, I don't see it. But okay. Sorry. I'll just go. I think Jordan is a bit is mischaracterizing John McTiernan a bit. I think he's got a lot more range than just shoot 'em ups, and I think it's weird that you mentioned like hot girls. It's like in the Die Hard movies, like he made the only Die Hard movies that had like almost no fucking chicks, and like they weren't like a major plot point or anything. I think The Expendables is a terrible pick. Anyways, I wasn't supposed to tech your shit anymore. My stuff. I picked the Suicide Squad movies, because John McTiernan is the kind of director that he can do all kinds of styles of movies, and they're still his. You can still tell they're a John McTiernan movie. He's done fantasy, he's done comedy, he's done action. Sci-fi, he's all over the place. So I think the perfect fit is a kind of random thing like the Suicide Squad movies, where they can be almost anything. It just is about the director they have.
All right. Jordan, we go back to you for 2 minutes on the clock. Time starts when you begin speaking.
You mentioned that he's well-rounded, and to a degree, he is in the right field of movie. Like I mentioned, Last Action Hero, and even Die Hard. There's comedic moments to it that I think he would lend to in building a really good Expendables movie. He's never really done comedy. He has one you could argue in Medicine Man, which wasn't really well-reviewed. So I wouldn't say he exactly tackles everything, which is why I don't love Suicide Squad as an option, because what did we love from the first one, from the second one, way more than the first one? Was the comedy, was the fact that it was basically, it's a Taika Waititi big comedy almost, or not Taika Waititi, James Gunn, I'm sorry, of course, but that he does comedic very well over the first one, which felt almost more like a John McTiernan movie, but not as good. So I don't agree that he would fit really well to Suicide Squad, because I feel like we went in for a totally different feel. That's what we walked away loving, and I feel like if he took over, it would receive a lot of backlash. People would be going, why are we jolting all of a sudden to him? We went from James Gunn to McTiernan, and not because McTiernan's bad, but it's just not what we expect or envision. I don't think people get behind that. You say Expendables, they go, oh, okay, he's worked with those guys and he does that kind of movie, and you could go, yeah, I think that could be cool, man. Like, we haven't seen him in a while. It fits, the original Die Hard guy is back making a movie that I think would work well. He's good. He can do decent with his caster. Predator's a really fun ensemble movie when you look back at it, with Ventura and Carl Weathers and everyone. And I just feel like that very much more suits him than something like a Suicide Squad. We went in very trepidatious. Like, that franchise has gone from dead on arrival to now we are waiting for a third movie. We're very much excited, but we're excited for a certain kind of style and comedy aspect of it in an R-rated way, and I don't think that quite suits it to a very large degree. I think Expendables is very much in his wheelhouse in a good way. And you look back at his best films of the 80s, 90s, they're really much callbacks to that. And so let's continue to see something that I think he could very much lend to, and people would be excited about.
All right, and that will be time on the 2 minutes. Caleb, we'll be back to you for your two. Time starts when you begin speaking.
So the thing about the Suicide Squad movies that I think is great is that we've seen two examples of how two people can make completely different movies set in the same world with some of the same characters. They're basically anthology films, and what we got that was so great was like these are both like stylistic directors. They're known for a style, and they did their style, and that paid off. John McTiernan is the ultimate like style director of the 80s and early 90s. That guy made so many iconic movies, even ones that we're not mentioning, like his fantasy movie, The 13th Warrior. He did the spy thriller, I think it's the first of the Tom Clancy movies. Their Hunt for Red October, which is an amazing movie. He's a very versatile director, but he has a very specific style. Whenever you see one of his movies, you know it's a John McTiernan movie. And that's what you want out of a Suicide Squad movie. You want a visually dynamic director that you can know, like, oh, this is a James Gunn movie. This is a John McTiernan movie. You know, like it's and I think he'd do great at it. Almost everything he's done is great. The Thomas Crown Affair was great. He, like, John McTiernan is just like such a versatile director, and he, like I said, okay, you can say he hasn't done much comedy. You said just Medicine Man, but also, like, you're telling me Last Action Hero wasn't a comedy. Also, Die Hard and Die Hard with a Vengeance are both hilarious movies, as well as being amazing classic action movies. This guy does comedy great. Like, there's even great comedy in The Predator. Or in Predator, not The Predator. There's not great comedy in that movie. But like I brought it up in my last debate, that like it's a hilarious movie as well as being great. John McTiernan has the range to do a Suicide
and
Squad
time.
movie.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and go on to the 4-minute open debate. The timer will re-kick in when the first person speaks.
You mentioned a lot of stuff that I'm not going to disagree with, because I feel like you're arguing for me sometimes. You say McTiernan's the ultra style of the 80s and 90s. I feel that is what Expendables really tries to be, is this great mashup of some of the people that we loved before in a current setting, and I think he fits that. Yeah, I want that style.
I think you're pigeonholing him into the action, like the action hero star that, like, it's just not true. He's got.
I'm pigeonholing him to a large degree, because you say almost everything's great. The last two things we saw of him were
just
bombs.
Not good movies.
Like, basic. First of all, that's your opinion. Obviously, they're fun. They give you exactly what, if you know what you're getting. If you've seen one Expendable, you know what you're getting, and he can add to that.
Movie.
You mentioned him being great. Basic and Rollerball are the last two things on his credits.
Rollerball's a comedy.
You're walking. Huh? I didn't say it was. I'm saying these are. You're saying everything he does is great. We're coming in with a director that has bombed the last two times he was on the big screen. So I don't think, one, just from a logic standpoint, a studio is not going to give him a Suicide Squad movie, because there's a lot of expectations. It's not something he would add to. So you got to stay in it. And yes, there is some great comedy. That's why I think Expendables is the perfect blend, because there's comedy in Predator, there's comedy in Die Hard, and Expendables has it. Look at Terry Crews.
What comedy is
look
in
at the villains. Terry Crews, very funny, and I'm always very much the comic relief. Dolph Lundgren actually had a different arc that made him funny, and the villains have usually been fun, like a Die Hard. You know what I mean? I quite enjoyed seeing Mel Gibson and Jean-Claude Van Damme ham it up.
Yes, I mean, I suppose I get that they're fun movies. I don't think that's a John McTiernan like type movie, just because it has people that he's worked with before. It is kind of a silly pairing. I think I don't know.
I just think he's such an unproven director at this point, because it's been so long, and his last two were bombs.
Unproven.
At this point, yeah, man, it's Hollywood. We got to keep up with, like, what have you done recently, which is nothing. So I don't see him walking.
Which is nothing, because he's been in jail. Like, it's not like.
I'm not saying why we haven't seen him, but we haven't seen him. His last two were bombs. It's not like studios were clamoring for him to come back from Basic. It's not like, so he was already on the uphill battle, even besides the jail stuff.
So you're saying he could be a mediocre director, so put him in a mediocre film series?
You're calling him mediocre. I'm calling him exactly what I want. I want an 80s, 90s throwback where there's a big villain, there's an eclectic cast, there's explosions.
80s, 90s throwbacks. They're just cash grabs. Like, there's not any like content in them.
They're fun, Ren, man. I've enjoyed them, man. There's not a single one I haven't smiled or laughed at, and I've really enjoyed the villains. And I just think at Suicide Squad, we want something different that he hasn't done in a very long time, and never quite did it in general to a degree.
I didn't quite understand what you just said there. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going off. I was just going back to your thing. Besides fighting for Expendables, that Suicide Squad, we're not looking for that. I think fans would backlash, going, You said that they were different kind of movies, but here's the problem: the first one didn't work. So it's not like we want different anthologies.
Okay, so
we don't want an anthology.
There was a lot of
stuff
movie that worked in the original Suicide Squad, and it was cut out of because of the studio.
Okay, but unfortunately, fans don't know. A lot of fans don't know about that. You're looking at mass box office. Fans aren't going, well, the director's cut. Like,
you see the director's cut, and it's a much better movie. Like, and it's a very like personally stylized movie. It like
that also has nothing to do with John McTiernan.
Okay. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Shit, I'm derailed now. Yeah, I don't know. Suicide Squad are anthology movies, basically. So, like, you could put any director in there.
All right, and that'll be time. You're all good there, guys. All good on that one. We'll go ahead and move on to our final minute to close. Caleb, you'll have a second to recollect your thoughts. Jordan, you're up first. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Unfortunately, you talk about anthology, just like Halloween, it didn't work. And it's not really what they were going for anyway. It became anthology because the first one wasn't good, so they went and did something different the second one, and we liked that. We resoundingly liked what they did with the second one, and it's something that McTiernan, I think, could add to. People would be upset if they found out he was doing the next one. For multiple reasons, for quality, and then also just what has he done. People will get excited, I think, for an Expendables because there is a big genre. I know it's not your cup of tea, but there's a group out there that enjoys those movies, and that's why there is still talks of a fourth one and maybe a fifth one, and including a different cast or an updated cast, more women. And I think people go, oh, McTiernan, oh wow, yeah, let's think about what he's done. Yeah, he fits. He would add to that. He would make a movie that I think would also spice. Instead of hurting Suicide Squad, I think projections, people would actually get a little more excited knowing, oh, the fourth Expendables or the fifth, whatever it would end up being by then, is directed by a guy that we haven't seen in a while and can do a movie that it would exactly deliver what we would want and have a little bit of comedy and fun.
And time. All right, Caleb, final minute goes to you. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Well, first of all, I am a fan of that genre when it's done well, like by a director like John McTiernan. And also, I think The Expendables is one thing and one thing only, and that's Sylvester Stallone's pet project. So there's no way that you could get a director like John McTiernan, who is like notably known for being kind of a hard ass, to work with Sylvester Stallone and get Sylvester Stallone to do things that would actually make those movies good. Because it's Sylvester Stallone's vision, and then he just hires a director. It's not and I think you're totally wrong about the not wanting an anthology series. That's the only reason that they were able to make a good Suicide Squad movie was because it's almost like they killed off almost all the characters we knew from the originals and told a completely different story with different main characters and made us love that cast and made a great movie. I want to see that again with John McTiernan doing his specific style and making it great.
And time. All right. A good first debate, guys. A good first debate. I'm going to go ahead and push you both into the back for just one moment as I will bring our three judges to screen as we are joined by Papa, Chad, and Mr. Chris Diaz. So a couple of things to go over that were mentioned in the round. So in terms of talking about John McTiernan's career, though John McTiernan has not officially directed a film since 2003, he has been active back in Hollywood since 2017. He was hired by the video game company Ubisoft to direct a short film called The Red Dot for their upcoming game at the time, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands. He then took over charge of the game's marketing campaign. Basically, every kind of visual that was put out related to that game was directed by McTiernan. It is the closest to directing a feature he has come since, I forget what that movie was called in 2003, but his last film. Going into other things, the film that Kayla was attempting to reference was The Hunt for Red October, which was in fact the first Jack Clancy film. He was correct about that. or Tom Clancy, Jack Ryan. That's what it was. I'm confusing the two, but he was correct about that fact. So we talked about genres of films. For what it's worth, both Medicine Man and Rollerball were called comedies. However, neither of them are classified as comedies on any film site that you would check. However, Last Action Hero, which was also referenced in that conversation, is in fact listed as a meta comedy. So technically, he does have one comedy in his career. It is just what was. It's not the first one that was mentioned. And then in terms of both of these franchises, because both competitors kind of went towards the potential future of these franchises and how McTiernan could work into that, currently there are no direct plans for a third Suicide Squad film at DC. The closest we are getting is a Peacemaker spinoff series. However, DC have said that while Gunn will continue to work with them, he is interested in doing other projects, meaning at the moment, if a Suicide Squad 3 were to happen, it would not be Gunn directing it. In terms of Expendables 4 is happening. Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, Dolph Lundgren, and Randy Couture are returning. The exiting members have been replaced by Strongman Eddie Hall, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, Megan Fox, and Tony Jaa. Iko Uwais of The Raid has been cast as the villain, and it will be directed by Scott Waugh, best known for his work on Need for Speed, that cinematic classic. With that said, Jacob, I go to you first. Who does your vote go to, and what sold you?
Quick correction. I am the best potato, boiled, mashed, and stuck in a stew. I am going with Jordan. Bringing up that McTiernan's last couple movies were bombs, and we haven't seen him in a while. So what a better way than 80s and 90s action, which is what he is best known for, to bring him back into Hollywood today.
All right, so the first vote goes to Jordan. Chad, I go to you. Who does your vote go to?
This was actually a bit of a seesaw for me because Mashed Potatoes had that great point where he said that, John McTiernan has more range, than those Expendables movies. But then Jordan was like, oh shit, well, those are iconic, like 80s and 90s. That's what McTiernan is known for. So I was like on Jordan for a while. But then Mashed Potatoes had like a brilliant point there at the end for me where he said, those are like Sylvester Stallone, like babies. Like, he's not going to let any director breathe. So if we have a great director like John McTiernan, who did Die Hard, come in there, he's not really going to get much done. So I went Mashed Potatoes at the very last second there.
All right, so it is a 1-1 vote. Chris, we go to you. Who gets your vote, and what sold you?
I went on Taylor a little bit, and then he got derailed and round two, and then Jordan went for the end.
Okay. All right, so with that said, Jordan is going to get the first point of the game. Judges, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and send you both to the back as we will bring back in our two competitors, and we will head over to question number 2. Let's go from one director who Hollywood has forgot about to another director who won't let Hollywood forget about him, because even when he's not making their films, he's just making his own. And most of these really weren't Hollywood films, all things considered, that we're going to be discussing. They were mostly smaller or independently financed. But let's talk about a decade of a director that is not often looked at. The question is, what is the best Kevin Smith film from the 2010s? There were 5 options on the board for these competitors. These 5 films are often probably the least talked about films in this director's career, despite the fact that they are quite literally the most recent. So we're going to go ahead and see what these gentlemen think are the best of that crop, if we take out all of the Kevin Smith classics per se. With that said, I will go ahead and bring back in the timer. Mr. Mashed Taters, you are up first. Fried Taters, you will go second, and I will disappear. And
so somehow we're talking about Kevin Smith again, which is great. I love Kevin Smith. So the question is, what's the best of his movies from the 2010s? I think without a doubt, his best one is his most recent film, which I had the pleasure of seeing in theaters, and it was incredible. Obviously I laughed, I cried. That's what you expect from a Kevin Smith movie. And it's Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. a freaking phenomenal movie. You feel like so many emotions. They get all the callbacks, but it's not tiresome. It's just such a great movie. And yeah, it's a fantastic freaking movie with one of the best performances I've ever seen from Jason Mewes, which you guys know I love, and a stellar performance by Harley Quinn Smith, Kevin Smith's daughter. It's absolutely great. When Ben Affleck came back, it's awesome.
Anytime. All right, Jordan, I will head over to you. 1 minute on the clock for you.
All right, much love for Kevin Smith in this room, it seems. I'll definitely add to that. Sometimes more as a human being than even a filmmaker, especially recently. That's why I'm a big fan of Red State from a few years back. This was something he has never really accomplished to do. We know what he can do. We've seen, his kind of genre of film from Clerks, Chasing Amy, Dogma. They're very much Kevin Smith movies. If you show someone Red State, they're just gonna know that it's a really well-made, well-written movie, not necessarily knowing at all from the way it's shot to the way to the acting performances, the monologues that Goodman and Parks are able to give Oscar-worthy performances in a Kevin Smith movie, something we haven't seen since Chasing Amy. I loved it from the get-go, man. You never know where it's going. You can't predict it. And I just thought it was something so out of what we've seen from him before in the past that worked really well. Again, this is, I'll get to reboot it in a second, but I love that Red State, he went there, man, and really tried something different. Even in the filmmaking style, you can really tell he's going somewhere else.
And time. All right, Caleb, back to you. 2 minutes when you speak.
Unlike the last round, I'm not gonna get into really crapping on Red State. I think it's an amazing movie. I think a few of these movies that we had to choose from are amazing movies, and all like very different. But I feel like Jay and Silent Bob Reboot was just affecting. Like he took Kevin Smith took what he learned from making those Red State and Tusk and whatever else, and not Yoga Hosers. He didn't learn anything in that movie. But and put it into making the best possible View Askew movie that there could have been. I think it's the best of those Jay and Silent Bob movies. It's just fantastic. It's affecting. It moves you and makes you feel all kinds of things. And Red State is great, but it didn't affect me like that. It's a good movie, but it's not like all-time best movies. I don't think, like, it's just not his all-time best. Jay and Silent Bob, just the performances that he's able to get out of Jason Mewes, but even all the little cameos are just like stellar. Like they're doing, like Ben Affleck, I started saying earlier, is just like a cameo, but like his scene is like amazing. It's so good. Just like and also you can tell that his dialogue is written by Kevin Smith talking about how much he loves his family and stuff. And there's all this background too of like they brought their families into it, so it's not only just a fiction. It's real. Like they're talking about the real people that they're looking at. It just happens to be the other person's kid.
All right, and that will be time on the 2 minutes. Jordan, back to you when you speak.
I wanted to love Reboot to a degree. I do enjoy it a lot, but it's a film made for me and you. It's a film made for the guys that went out and saw it in a theater, in the limited runs it had. It's a film that, unfortunately, if you're not a Kevin Smith fan, I don't think you're gonna like, and like it a lot less, because is very much doing the same movie, which he has admitted to. Dietrich Bader does nothing different than he did in the last movie, and a lot of the cameos aren't that funny. Fred Armisen and Tater Tots, I didn't find funny. Dan Fogler's just yelling about tickets, and you know what I mean. And I love Affleck. That was the only thing that was added last second, and was probably well written because it really did touch his heart. So he actually sat down for a minute and wrote out a real scene that we didn't get for a lot of these other cameos that are just flying by that aren't as funny as Silent Bob. His writing in Red State, I mean, you say the movie didn't affect you. Boy, it affected me, man. I walked out and it was a movie I probably didn't put another movie or show on for a minute because I just had to think about it. That final monologue by John Goodman wondering how it ended with him and Parks is chilling. And you know what I mean? And that's why, you know, there was a campaign for Parks and or Goodman to get nominated because they have these juicy moments in the scene with the three kids, what might happen to them, and it's so unpredictable. And that's the opposite of Reboot, which is it's fan service. It's worse than Star Wars Force Awakens in the sense of it's really just very much like, hi, you like Vader from the last movie, and Matt Damon's gonna tell a couple of corny jokes. Like, it's fun, like, yeah, cool, it's low key. I care, you care. But anyone else that didn't see Dogma is just gonna be wondering why there's this random scene with Matt Damon in a church where he's just making corny puns that any one of us could have written. That took 2 seconds to write down, probably the day of, and they shot him a camera to shoot that kind of fleeing scene. It's a fun, really forgettable movie to a large degree. I've rewatched it a couple times, and it never really builds that next level. And some of the acting is questionable from his daughter and Muse. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that either.
All right, and that'll be time. The 4-minute open debate will start when the first competitor speaks.
Yeah, I don't know. So I didn't say that Red State didn't affect me. It's definitely a very effective movie. It just didn't give you
said
a
effect. That's a
range of
quote.
emotions.
You said effect.
I said it didn't affect me the same way as Jay and Silent Bob Reboot did. It's, I don't know, man. It's really hard to knock this.
It is hard because, like I said, I had fun. When I say effect too, like Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, it affected me, and yes, it gave me a fun time at the theater, and it has something I've rewatched, but it didn't make me want to see what was next. Red State comes out, and you're ready for what's next. You're ready to see where he might go. And it was Tusk, it was Yoga Hosers, and I really like Tusk, actually. I'll defend Tusk. But you know, Reboot you just went going, all right, cool. He still can kind of do this. You gave me some laughs, you gave me some cameos, some kind of famous people, you know, Hemsworth shot for a day, but it didn't leave me exactly going, give me that third Jay and Bob. Like, it just let me go, cool, I saw my friends again for a minute. What else is on? What else is on?
That's crazy to say. I absolutely like with Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, like that it was what's going to be the next thing. Like I love Kevin Smith for that reason, that like he's not going to always do the same thing, but then he does come back to I mean, yeah, he always makes genre comedies, but like he's not always
if with Red State. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, but I feel like it was the same thing, though. You know what I mean? It's fun, like, you know what I mean? Kind of talk about other directors that, you know what they are good at, and I don't feel like he really thought that hard on the script. I just feel like he shot what he knew.
Well, he definitely thought about that script. That's I don't know, but yes, but also to you say it was fan service, like it's a bad thing. It literally was made for the people that fuck with Kevin Smith. Like, that was why he made it, and that's how he made it. He funded it through those people, and like,
and that's nice and all. But if you're asking the question, what's the best film, and that to me is being able to show anyone on any genre, not genre, but any kind of person.
The question isn't what's the most easily accessible movie. It's what's the best movie, and this was.
Yeah, I agree.
It accomplished exactly what it set out to do. Make make a great movie for the people that like that type of movie.
Make a passable movie for his group of fans, and I know there's a lot of fans like me that were underwhelmed. I know there's like you got it, kind of like I was talking about with Expendables. You got exactly what you wanted from that, and that's great. Other people, I just felt like you're giving us more of the same. It's not, and I just thought Red State that the writing was next level. The way he shot it too. Reboot
Also,
looks
Red
like
State
again
isn't like a super accessible movie. Like you're not.
I mean, it's not for kids or anything, but it is accessible
movie,
if you enjoy
like,
acting and writing.
If you enjoy low budget horror movies, that
I would even argue, you saying low budget. I mean, Reboot looks low budget. The way it's shot and everything.
it is low budget.
It's not the most like it very much goes into Kevin
style.
Smith's joke about I'm not the greatest director. Red State looks great. He had an award-winning cinematographer with him who knew what he was doing. It looks great. You don't look at that film and go, "Yeah, this is low budget shot for $5."
It's not a Kevin Smith movie. It's a movie made by Kevin Smith.
And and that's kind of what I wanted. I want my reboots, but I also want other movies that will take me somewhere that I just think are more well made. And I think that's what we got with Red State.
I don't know, man. Fuck it.
If you guys do just said everything you can say, we can see time and move forward.
You want to concede?
Yeah.
We'll concede. We
Okay.
said our pieces.
All right, so we'll go ahead and jump forward to the closing. Caleb, you are up first, so you can take a second to collect your thoughts, and the time will start when you speak.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess like everything is subjective, and you know, but I don't think mass appeal necessarily is a indicator of how good a movie is. I mean, not to be cliche, but like, you know, Citizen Kane was critically panned. It was like people said it was a terrible movie, and now it's like one of the best. Accessibility is not a factor in this argument, I don't think. He made the perfect movie for the people that enjoy his movies. He made a perfect movie for Kevin Smith fans, and that's what he set out to do. He accomplished his goal. He made it on his own terms and did it perfectly. It's a super effective movie. It's absolutely great, and Red State is also good, but it's not. It doesn't affect you.
And that is time. Jordan, back to you for the final minute. Time starts when you begin speaking. Is there a phone call that needs answering?
No, I blocked that, so just give me 1 second. Okay, no, I'm good. Okay, first of all, twisting my words a little bit. When I say mass appeal, I don't mean like Transformers mass appeal. You can get to it quicker. By mass appeal, I just mean any movie lover will like this movie potentially. Unlike Reboot, that I feel like is you got to be a fan. Unfortunately, you got to have seen Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back to Care. If you watch that Dietrich Bader scene, if you watch a lot of those scenes, you're not caring as a fan because you're just wondering what's going on. Red State was something different that he also made on his own terms. That was wholly original. That looks beautiful. Doesn't look like a low budget film. That grips you from the beginning to the very end with Oscar worthy performances. Reboot's fun. It fits kind of like our feelings, but there's no way we're quoting or thinking about it like we were with Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, like we were with Chasing Amy. It's just not that much of a memorable film that does anything differently or that affects, you use that word affect again. You know, you walk away from Red State, you can have a debate, you can talk with people, whether they're Kevin Smith fans or not, about the ideologies of Red State and whatnot. Jay Bob Reboot, it's fun fluff that's rewatchable and also instantly kind of forgettable.
And time. All right, guys, we will go ahead and send you both to the back to await the judge's decision while I go ahead and bring in our three judges. And on this one, I am going to go to Chad first. So, as concise as you can hit it for me, who sold you on the point? And you are still muted.
Sorry about that. I loved mashed potatoes talking about how Reboot is a Kevin Smith movie and stuff like that. I think that's really great. But yeah, it had to go to Jordan for me this time because Jordan just really kind of passionately sold me on why Red State is great, like the Oscar-worthy performances, the acting, the writing is great. It's affecting. He talked about a specific final monologue by John Goodman. He said that you have to be a big Kevin Smith fan and see a lot of movies for Reboot to even work for you. And I think that maybe might make it kind of a lesser of a film. And I hadn't seen either of these, so I kind of want to watch Red State a lot now, especially because somebody said it was a horror film. So.
All right. So, in what is a movie battleground first, before going to the second judge, I can award the point because if you were paying attention, Chris just completely showed his board while Chad was talking. So I am already aware of who his point went to. If you want to give a very brief statement on why, you can. But Jordan will be getting the second point.
So I think this brief for someone who only seen Reboot and never see Red State. Jordan showed me on Red State a lot more. Taylor did a good job, but Jordan just shut down Reboot, but I generally did like a lot. Down quick and fast, saying Joseph wasn't familiar with him when enjoying it, but Janie on everything. Getting someone even me who's not the biggest Kevin Smith actually cast Red State, so Jordan won in the end.
All right, and that will be it for this time around. Thank you, judges. I will go ahead and send you all to the back as we will go ahead and bring in our competitors and head on to round number 3. And we move on to round number 3. And coming up this week, well, technically, I guess because this match goes up on a Saturday, yesterday, we saw the release of, technically Thursday, because that's how Thanksgiving works. My timelines are all fucked up. But the point in being, this week we had movies come out. Thanksgiving week is usually a pretty big week when it comes to recent new releases. A lot of films try to go for that blockbuster box office. And one of them that came out is Ridley Scott's second entry into film this year with House of Gucci. He already had the critically successful and box office failure, The Last Duel, come out earlier this year. But House of Gucci is out this week. And so because of that, I decided to kind of take a different approach to this question because Ridley Scott is a man who, as we discussed in the chat, has his name attached to a lot of shit. The fact that he owns a production company would be part of that reason. When you own a company that produces shit, your name ends up on everything. But if you dig through and look, there are a specific set of films that Ridley Scott was behind the production of in a more direct way with personal involvement, which is how the film industry distinguishes the difference between executive producer and producer. With that said, my question to you is, what is the most underrated film produced by Ridley Scott? And that word either is because I did not edit the writing of the question properly, but that doesn't matter because we're talking about films produced by Mr. Ridley Scott. And with that said, Jordan, you are back up first on this one, so I will bring up your timer and it will begin ticking when you start speaking.
Alrighty, so I went for 2015's Concussion, starring Will Smith. This is a movie I think came out right around kind of Thanksgiving, Christmas time, and told a story that I think really needed to be told. Obviously, about the concussions and what people go through in the NFL as well as other sports, and the news that we have found out, over the years. You know what I mean? The peril some of these guys have gone through. David Morse, who you've seen from stuff like Green Mile and so many other movies, he's got a really great pivotal smaller part in it as a guy that unfortunately takes his life, which is based on a true story, just from his head and just from the different brain problems he's having, and we've seen it affect the world of pro wrestling and almost any sport that involves constant head trauma. And Will Smith again proves why even after a couple of failures he does something like this and you're instantly reminded of why this guy is a leading man. And I just thought it was a really well made film, timely film too, even one that could still be shown today, and like you would think, oh, this was made last year based on
And
what's
time.
out.
All right, and I meant to say this at the start of the round, but I will throw it in now just as a preface for our judges and any competitor who may be watching. With a question like this, with a producer, it is very difficult to tell exactly how much involvement they have in the film. So quite simply, we are just arguing the underrated quality of the films, the name Ridley Scott and how often it gets mentioned. Don't let it factor too much into your arguments. However the competitors approach this is how they approach this, but I just want to make sure that preface is out there for everybody. It's a viewing pleasure. With that said, Caleb, you are up next. The time will start when you begin speaking, sir.
Yeah, all right. So I got this question, and I had to, do a quick Wikipedia search of what exactly he's produced. And there's a very large list, and the majority of those movies I've never heard of. And then there was Concussion, which Jordan got to first, and then there was Clay Pigeons, who luckily, there was Monkey Bone, but we weren't going with that one. And then there's Clay Pigeons, which luckily was the third movie that on that list out of dozens that I knew about, thanks to my bandmate singer Kim Banis. She showed me this movie, and it's freaking awesome. It stars Joaquin Phoenix, Vince Vaughn as like a young Vince Vaughn when he was like in that boom of coming up before he became did dodgeball and all that. It's in a really good performance, and Janine Garofalo's in it as an FBI agent. It's just a really weird, awesome, dark comedy.
And time. All right. I did not expect Monkey Bone slander tonight, but it was fully deserved. That movie sucks. Jordan, you're up next. Time starts when you begin speaking.
I was just about to change my answer to Monkey Bone, but fine, never mind. So yeah, Clay Pigeons is one of those kind of like weird '90s movies that has kind of an interesting plot, and it is before Vince Vaughn kind of relegated himself to rom-com, so there is an interesting performance in there. It doesn't totally work. I actually thought I had never seen it totally, but then I re-looked at like my letterbox and like my little dockets. I have seen it. I've forgotten about it over time, so I kind of had to rewatch it a little bit to remind myself. And yeah, it's one of the things that has a lot of kind of ideas that aren't really fully realized, and just kind of it leaves you kind of just kind of cold and like, all right, that was a weird little trip, and all right. A Concussion, I just felt like they knew what story to tell. It was, as I said before, it was very timely. Even still to this day, it's just something that I think could be shown and still needs to be discussed to this day, exactly what we can do for our athletes who are being run ragged through the dirt, and what can we do. I know a lot of football fans don't like to hear the different ideologies of what we can do, but it's a discussion that needs to be had here. I love the relationship between him and his wife, and Will Smith just he's the kind of guy that this is a perfect role for him, because you really want to root for this guy and fall in love with him, and you do, because you could see that he has the right heart and mind, but he's going against the NFL. It's that great story of it's me versus a juggernaut. The odds are against me. What can I do? And he's controversial, but Alec Baldwin's pretty good in this too. Just saying. Luckily, there weren't guns on set. So Concussion, no, but Concussion I thought was just it's a tightly made film. Another one that again, it's shot well. Peter Landsman directed it, and just something that I think I will look forward to seeing it again to hear those discussions. If you ever read the reports that have been based off of it, they're a great read that'll bring stuff up to you. And yeah, I just think it's a well-made film that knows what it's about.
And that is time. And all I can say is thank God we pre-record these and put them up a few weeks later, because that joke won't be as fresh when this airs. Caleb, back to you. Time starts when you begin speaking.
All right, so Clay Pigeons is a story about a small town in Montana. A guy played by Joaquin Phoenix named Clay. Hey, but that's the title. And it tells a story about this guy he's sleeping with his best friend's girl, and so his best friend like commits suicide in front of him, and then he thinks he's gonna get blamed for his death, so he like fakes a car accident, and it freaking works. And then so like all these like crazy things keep happening, like he gets involved with another girl, and then the girl ends up killing the girl that he's with. So like all these bodies keep like stacking up around him, and it keeps looking like it's his fault. It's like this awesome little like dark comedy, and then like in comes Vince Vaughn as Lester the molester, and he's just perfect in the role as this like annoying, like freaking really like you want to punch him in the face, awful guy, akin to Swingers, just great. But then like he does the turn, and like he's a freaking psychopath, dude, and like he's super affecting and like super scary in the movie. Also, like weirdly, this is the first time that he was he did a movie with the director of Wedding Crashers, which is like how random that they were in that movie. But yeah, it's just a fun, freaking weird, dark movie. Like, and then like Janine Garofalo is in it, and like shines with her like dry wit and comedy, but she's also like an investigator, like investigating the murders and stuff. So like she's doing a mix of serious acting and also like just these really weird jokes. Like she's watching Alien and she's on a vibrating bed, and a delivery guy comes.
And time. All right, we'll go ahead. We are moving into the 4-minute open debate round. The timer will keep going once the first person speaks.
Just talking about Clay Pigeons. Everything you mentioned, like I just thought it was always missing something for me. I always thought like even some of the dark humor does not totally connect. It always felt like an okay premise. Like I like the setup you mentioned. You did a good job of selling that.
Let me go ahead and cut in here. Sure. Like just like your last argument, like opinion, like my opinion doesn't really matter. Maybe it wasn't for you or whatever. It's not your. You can't just like say like, oh, this wasn't a good movie because I didn't like it. Just like you were saying with the Expendables. How are you gonna go in with that? It is a like a well-made movie. It looks good. It's well shot. It's well acted. And this debate isn't about the best movie that Ridley Scott has produced. It's about the most underrated film that Ridley Scott has produced. And that's why this movie is absolutely underrated.
And Concussion was too. It was one of those like
perfectly rated. It's like just above.
It had a lot of buzz and whatnot. 50, and then 50. Unfortunately, when Oscars rolled around, you know what I mean, no one really got looked at or anything. And it is one of the things that has been
a way better movie if it was a documentary about the actual thing. It doesn't resolve the issue. It doesn't even propose a resolve to the issue.
It's not what it's about. That's a whole different discussion between a documentary being able to delve more into it. I thought this thing did it. It does exactly what a movie should do about an important subject like this. It gives you good speeches. It gives you good actors to deliver those. From David Morris to Will Smith, who also has some great scenes about the struggle he's having with the wife in the courtroom. Like it gives you what you want for a bigger Hollywood movie. Another movie you mentioned, Clay Pigeons, looks all right.
Anybody enjoyed watching Concussion. It wasn't like a movie you wanted to like go see, and like it was
the same thing can be said. I mean, again, like that's like I'm not knocking your opinion by any means, but like just
everybody I've ever seen that has heard of Clay Pigeons, everybody that I've seen that has heard of Clay Pigeons that I've talked to enjoyed, or even that I've seen reviewing and doing research for this, people enjoy this freaking movie. Like Siskel, Gene
I've never seen
Siskel
anyone not
enjoyed it
enjoy
and said it
Concussion
was
either.
a freaking.
I mean, you mentioned that. I know no one really cares about Rotten Tomatoes, but the fan vote is higher for Concussion. I mean, if we're talking about as far as fan wise and whatnot, you know what I mean. And same thing. I remember
because
seeing
nobody's
with a
heard of
couple of
Clay
friends
Pigeons.
having good.
It's underrated.
Everybody, no one haven't heard has nothing to do
about
with the fan
Concussion.
vote of Rotten
Everybody
Tomatoes.
heard about Concussion, and then it got middle
That
of the
actually
road reviews.
That proves my point, because that's, again, it's an algorithm based on the who likes it more. So I'm not saying more people voted for Concussion, but more people enjoyed it than the pool of people that enjoyed Clay Pigeons, just based on the one website. Again, take that or leave it. I'm just saying that the amount, though, that doesn't waver the percentage.
Sure. I guess I get what you're saying. I don't know what that has to.
No, I'll just say you were mentioning your friends, and I was just saying,
dude.
Don't mean for it to be. Just I'm just bringing up that you're talking about your friends, and I was just pulling from another pool of a group of people as far as it being liked. You know what I mean?
Sure. I don't know what to say, man. This is like Clay Pigeons is a good movie. It is
it's fine.
Well made. It's well written. It's pretty goddamn original. And it's
doing
great.
wacky things that don't always even up or that are super well written, in my opinion, doesn't make it better just because it's a wackier out there film. Doesn't make it better. Just you're trying to do shock value for.
I'm not talking about better. I'm talking about underrated.
Okay.
Like, if you haven't heard of it, it's obviously underrated. Like,
no, I know what you mean by underrated. I was just going to attack in mind from a different perspective of underrated. It being, again, a film that I think had people watch it at the time because it's Christmas. A lot was out already, and then New Year comes a whole nother. People are looking for not necessarily a movie that wants you to think or anything. So it has been swept under the rug. So it's also underrated in its own right.
All right, and that will be time. We're going to go ahead and go on to the final minute. Jordan, you're up first. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Yeah, again, I mean, all this is opinion based, man. So I mean, just go, Clay Pigeons. It has its moments, its premise, and a decent cast to go at it. Phoenix and Vaughn are good choices here. Unfortunately, though, it's one of those movies that, again, like I said, I had to rewatch a second time to totally remember exactly where it went. It doesn't. Some scenes are way better than others. Some gags don't always follow through, or are really well set up, or well executed. Really, rather, is what I mean with the end of it. You go, oh, you got a funny setup, but what you do with it, I feel, is what matters, and they don't always do much with it. Concussion, like I just said, I just really enjoyed the story they were trying to tell for the time, and it still holds up as far as it looks good. The money's on the table, that they're able to have these big discussions put elegantly by Will Smith, who's struggling, who's seeing that there's wrong being done, and he wants it in his heart to do the right thing, but there's just so much on the line. And I just thought it was a really well made film at the end of the day that is executed and underseen by some and not talked about as much as it should.
And time. All right, we'll go to Caleb. Your last minute on the clock here for this round. Time starts when you begin speaking.
So again, we're talking about the most underrated film, and I think Concussion is a perfectly rated film. It's okay. Like, yes, there are good actors in it, and yes, it gets a good message, but I think it could have been better. And I think some of the performances aren't as good as Jordan is making it out to be. But also it's a freaking slog of a movie to get through. It's not a fun movie. It's really hard to watch. So I think it's perfectly rated where it is. Just about 50-50. I've heard good things and I've heard bad things. Clay Pigeons is an underrated movie. Nobody has heard of this freaking movie, and it needs to be heard about. It's really good. Early Vince Vaughn, early Joaquin Phoenix, Janine Garofalo's in it. The supporting cast is great. Friggin' the farmer from Walking Dead is in it as the sheriff. He gives a great performance. I I don't know. It's a great movie and it's underrated and it should be seen.
Time. All right, guys, another good round. I'm going to go ahead and send both of you to the back for the moment, as I will bring in our 3 judges. And just to pull up a couple of quick fact checks for things that were brought up in the round. First off, yes, for those who were a little confused when it was said in the moment, the director of Clay Pigeons, David Dobkin, would later go on to be known for his comedy work. This was the first time that he worked with Vince Vaughn. He would later work with him 2 more times on Wedding Crashers and Fred Claus. And might I say, those are 2 very different quality comedies. Moving on from that, in terms of, because it was talked about how much the movies were seen, the easiest way to talk about how they were seen is to fact check their box office. Clay Pigeons only made $1.8 million at the worldwide box office. Concussion obviously did make more at $48.6 million, but it was also obviously a number of years later, and it is for most likely a bigger, wider release. So there are some factors to be taken into account there. In terms of award success, because that was brought up, the film was underlooked at award shows. In terms of major awards, somebody who's just aware of the discussion that was happening around the time, Will Smith was in the discussion for a potential Oscar nomination. No other performance from the film was. However, Will Smith did not get that Oscar nomination. The closest he got was a Golden Globe nomination, which he did not win. No other major award nominated him. And since Rotten Tomatoes was brought up, I do a fact check on that, of course, as well. Clay Pigeons for audience score is currently rated at 67%. Concussion is currently rated at a 74%. For people who care, the critics' scores, however, are reversed. Clay Pigeons has a 61%, while Concussion is technically rotten at 58%. With all of that said, though, what I added for context does not matter. It matters what the gentleman in the match said. And Mr. Diaz, I go to you as concise as you can get it for me. Who sold you on the point, and what was the main thing they said that sold you? I cannot tell if he is speaking and we can't hear him or what is happening right now, but mashed potatoes will get the vote. We'll figure out the audio issues later if there are any. Papa, I will go to you next. Who does your vote go to and what sold you?
I didn't get to say it last round, but JPO, I love the fact that you used your entire 2 minutes to argue against your opponent's movie. Bold strategy. I'm glad it worked out for you. I found it very spectacular. Going back to this round, I have to give it to Mashed Potatoes. Did a really good job of telling me why the film itself was underrated, using the whole no one has seen it, telling me about the movie, why it is such a good movie, even though no one knows about it. So I had to give it to him.
All right. So with that, we will send our judges backstage. All right, guys. So we are going to go ahead and move on to question number 4. And since we were speaking about Ridley Scott films because of House of Gucci, a lot of big films come out around Thanksgiving week. And another that comes out this week is Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, which is the reboot of the longstanding Resident Evil franchise previously helmed by Paul W.S. Anderson. Now it is being directed by some guy named Johannes. I cannot remember his last name for the life of me, but he directed the 47 Meters Down films for anyone who might have seen those. But with that said, the Resident Evil films in terms of video game films absolutely dominated the 2000s. And so in honor of it being rebooted in the 2020s, the question I asked is, what is the best video game film released in the 2000s? It's not a decade known for having a ton of good films, but these gentlemen ciphered through the silos of crap and picked out what they feel they can argue for the best of that decade. Gentlemen, after putting you through 3 rounds where you clearly both respect the films and don't want to necessarily totally shit on them, I hope you have fun with this one. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and bring the timer back up. And Caleb, you are up first for 1 minute. Time starts when you speak.
All right. So I picked the movie Doom. I think this is a really decent version of Doom, which is about all you can expect from a from a video game movie, especially in the 2000s. There weren't a whole lot of good ones. Doom is a solid ride. You got Space Marines going on an adventure in a lab. And there's space demons, and it's a lot of fun. Carl Urban is the star of it, and then also The Rock is in it, and they both do a good job. It's a fun adventure through killing aliens. They do the whole first-person shooter scene, which I think is one of the best video game things put on screen. It was just like a pretty true adaptation of the style and the feel, not necessarily of the story, but it was as Jordan's didn't exactly follow the story either.
All right, and that'll be time. Thankfully, that's not a spoiler, because let's be real, none of these films really followed the story.
Yeah, that's true.
Case in point, the Resident Evil films. So for what it's worth, I wanted to give the director his due credit. Johannes Roberts is the name of the gentleman who wrote and directed the new film. But with that said, let's see if a Resident Evil film got picked, because they certainly didn't follow the games either. Jordan, you were up next. 1 minute on the clock when you start speaking.
No, it did not. Yeah, as you said, going through this list, you're looking at them like, maybe I could talk about that. Maybe I don't want to talk about that. And then finally, actually found a movie that I did like, and that I'm happy finally got a sequel, although that's not very good. But I'm talking about the first one, which is pretty good, Silent Hill. It was a really good video game, but even fans were kind of curious, what are you going to do with the movie? Because the fun part about the video game is that it's dark, it's creepy, you got a flashlight that's constantly dying, there's monsters around. What are you going to do with a movie that has to talk and make you care? And Silent Hill found a way, actually. They casted some good actors. Rhoda Mitchell's really good in it. Sean Bean and others, Laura Holden from Walking Dead. And they actually found like a really good story here, and like made you care about a couple characters, as well as having some really awesome horror designs. Some of the creatures are beautiful, and there's some great tense scenes as well. With the nurses that you have to be very silent around, who move every time they hear just a little bit. Like, it built suspense. It had actors you cared about. It's not bad.
All right, we'll move on to the 2-minute segment. Caleb, you're up next. Time starts when you begin speaking.
So first of all, bringing up Laurie Holden in that movie is not exactly an endorsement for your film. That was not a great shining performance from Laurie Holden. Although it was cool seeing her like CGI melt. Shoot, what did I pick? Doom. Yeah, Doom is just a lot of fun. You're having this space, or you're following these like space soldiers up through space and onto this laboratory base, and then crazy horror shit starts happening. I think remember there's like the scene when the like dude gets like stuck in a wall and like freaking dies. It was pretty awesome. There's some like decent comedy going on in there with like some of the background actors. And it's fun. And then you got the like showdown with the demon, like CGI demon, the Rock at the end, which is dope as fuck. Like Carl Urban versus the Rock. I'll watch it all day long. Silent Hill is I don't know, man. It's a really good movie based on a video game. But Doom is also like a pretty good movie based on a video game. I think they got like slightly more accurate to the source material. You got the feeling, the exact same feeling that you got out of Doom playing the original games as you did watching the movie. I don't think you necessarily got that true to the game-ness from Silent Hill in terms of the feel, because again, we've already said the story isn't anywhere near the same, except for perhaps like sort of the settings. But yeah, I think just to make that distinction of video game movies, I think Doom got it a little bit closer to the actual feel of the game.
And time. All right, Jordan, back to you. 2 minutes on the clock when you speak.
Caleb, it's nice to meet you because I've never met anyone that has defended Doom like you have defended Doom. You know who also doesn't like Doom like me? The Rock. The Rock has even joked in multiple interviews about, yeah, I'm proud of all my movies, well, except for Doom. And he gets a laugh every time because people know what he's talking about. It's a movie that nobody wanted a sequel of, unlike Silent Hill, until we had that horrible direct-to-video sequel a couple years back. And guess what? That direct-to-video sequel is pretty much as well reviewed as the first Doom was, despite having nowhere near the budget or the actors. You mentioned The Rock. It is one of the most unfun performances of The Rock. They give him nothing, not even good cheesy dialogue. It's just not good dialogue. And then they try to make him bad in the end. And yeah, Carl Urban versus The Rock sounds like a wet dream of mine, but it is so not executed. And you so don't care when it gets to it. And you just want to wrap up this slog fest. Silent Hill, you mentioned not being true to the story, just like Doom. That is true, but at least they found a good story. Like, that's all I kind of care about to a large degree, unless it's not like Silent Hill is known necessarily for its main character, like a Resident Evil, to where it's like, oh, they screwed up the main character. Silent Hill is more about the atmosphere, and they at least got that true in Silent Hill. You have the atmosphere, you have tense, scary moments. The design was awesome, and you talk about some brutal, memorable killing scenes in Doom. There's a couple of cool ones. There are some great ones, some gruesome ones in Silent Hill. They truly built a world that I would be scared to enter. If I all of a sudden entered the snowy, front of the town, I would go, oh shit, I'm dead. And instead of Doom, who that just went to this cliched, space disaster that we've seen done so much better, and it's not even cliched in a good way. Like, if it just given us something, and it really doesn't. And I know it didn't work last time, and who cares about Rotten Tomatoes? It actually has a fans approved. It's actually fresh on fans for Rotten Tomatoes, unlike Doom, which is in the 18s and the 30s for fans and critics. It's actually in the 60s, almost 70s for fans for Silent Hill. It built up the world right, unlike Doom, that we couldn't wait to escape that world. And
time. All right, we're going to go on to the 4-minute open round. The time will start when our first competitor speaks.
Doom, Caleb. That was a joke. I was just starting.
Oh, good. So my point was that not necessarily that it was like truer to the story. Again, like I said, like neither of ours had that. I think it was closer to the feel and the kind of like atmosphere of the game.
That's almost just bad from the get-go though, because Doom, like I said, mine's also kind of like this. Just it's more about the atmosphere. And Doom is this first-person shooter,
right? But like Silent Hill is supposed to be slow and intense, and like you're not supposed to.
And it has its slow, intense moments.
I'd say it's a very fast-paced movie. I think
it is, which is I think built to it, except for the moments where it needs to be slow and intense, which it
everything
does.
Like it wasn't so much the like. I feel like it should have been more. Because in the game, it's more like almost like Alien, where like you don't see the things coming until like they got you, like they're already on you. Like it's so it's not like
they tackled it from a different way though, and I still think it works. I understand what you're saying as far as compared to the game, but we're just looking for the movie, and the movie I think tackles it, like I said, in sometimes a slightly different way, but it executes it pretty well. Doom, yeah, they gave us the fan service of the first person. That's fun for 5 minutes if you care. If you're my mom or dad watching Doom with me, which is a true sad story, they're just wondering why all of a sudden this movie's jumping to first person, which is another jolting thing that will take out a big chunk of your audience.
I think if anybody was going to see a Doom movie, it was for the freaking people that knew.
It's true, but hey, The Rock's got the power to bring my mama and daddy to the screen, and unfortunately, it was a letdown, man. Like everyone, like
I think all of these movies are letdowns. Like, let's be clear, they're all letdowns.
I for once, like I said, this stood out in the list. This stood out as right away. Oh, I can talk good about that movie, because even if we were just talking about decent movies of, I think, is it 2006, I would still bring up, oh yeah, you know what's a fun horror film? Silent Hill. You know what I mean? Like, it is 2006. All right. Doom is nothing I would bring up in any
okay,
regard.
I will give you that there's maybe more negative that you can say about Doom, but like Silent Hill, like it doesn't look as good as you're pointing out to like be. Like it the majority of the Pyramid Head stuff is like really cheesy looking. The trapped in the elevator with the sword, it looks real bad.
I don't
like
know, man. There's some great when it's less CGI. And even some of the pyramid stuff in CGI, I thought it looked pretty good. And the nurses, I think, is a great memorable scene. Like I said, and we were invested in the characters.
That was like a practical usage.
Yeah,
like,
and that's what I'm saying. Yeah, maybe some works better than others, but at least something in this movie really worked at some point. Versus, I don't. You tell me one.
I think we're
Doom is still just okay.
I think like we're both like, shining a light on like the few good parts of the movies. And yeah,
I think there's more to shine on mine though. I mean, you got a couple different characters you care about. I like Laura Holden in the movie, but more so, I really walked away going, Rhoda Mitchell in a horror movie is an actress I want to watch because she's doing something really good in what could have been in another actor's hands of a very like whatever performance.
But like, okay, you could say the same thing about Carl Urban. Like, I think I went out of that movie thinking like, oh, I want to see him in more action movies. Like this is going to be like, like.
He might be the shining light, and then I also walked out going, Rock needs to read scripts a little bit more.
Yeah. But I also think there was some good in the background cast, the scientist dude, and there was like, was he a criminal or something? The guy that got killed.
If you don't remember, man, I'm not gonna remember the specifics of these characters that you're giving no time
to follow. Like,
for how long though? He's not even in it that much.
Yeah, well, there's more characters in mine than yours.
Dispendable characters, yeah, and there's lots of characters in mine.
All right, we're going to go on to the final minute. Caleb, you're up first. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
I suppose like it's a little. My argument is a little bit into the semantics of like the best video game film as opposed to best game based on best movie based on a game. I don't know. I think to be honest, Doom wasn't like the best game ever either. It was a fun shoot 'em up pixelated mess, and then it got a little less pixelated and a little cooler looking, but still like a fun action romp through killing demon aliens and getting jump scares. And you got delivered that in that movie. Silent Hill is, I think, supposed to be a visceral, like tense experience, and they don't ever rest to make you feel that like tension. And yes, they're like cool scenes. They definitely cherry picked, same as my movie, like the coolest things from the series and put them in there. But I think a lot of the CGI looks bad, and it's
and time.
Yeah.
All right, we go back to Jordan for the final minute. Tom will start when you begin speaking.
I think no matter what semantics you use, I still think Silent Hill wins in both categories as to what's a better film and what's a better video game movie. Doom is a first-person shooter where, again, even from the get-go, you kind of go, where do you go with that? A first-person shooter, where do you go? All right, make a monster movie, but it doesn't execute it well. Silent Hill takes the idea of, okay, you can have a monster movie with some fun creature designs, and you mentioned tense. There is some tense moments, man. I know I'm harping on the nurse scenes, but like you said with the Pyramid Head, and because you care about that character, like I said, Carl Urban. Let's be honest. If his character didn't make it to the end, I don't think anyone would have really totally cared. He's a fun character. He's a shining bright moment, but you're not invested in Carl Urban. You're invested in the journey of Rhoda Mitchell trying to save her daughter, trying to avoid it. And there is moments of trailing it back, like when she's hunkering down, waiting for things to pass by, and you're learning a little bit more about the character here, and you're waiting for a follow-up at the end of that movie. You're excited, actually, for once in a video game movie, for them to continue the story.
All right, and that will be time on the argument. I'm going to go ahead and send you guys to the back, as I will bring in our judges for the decision. We'll go ahead and bring them in. Now, Papa, I do go to you first. Now, I do have to say, I want you to keep your personal opinion, personal feelings aside, because the face that he made when Caleb made a comment about the game Doom looked like somebody took the BFG to his childhood. Now, personal opinions aside, on the arguments about the films, who gets your vote, and what was the thing that sold you?
Yeah, Caleb broke me when he said that Doom isn't even that good of a game. What? What? But no, all according to the arguments, talking about the movies, I have to go with JPO. Bringing in more memorable scenes in his film, the practicality of the nurses in the movie, Pyramid Head, and then also talked about how bad going from normal view to first person in the Doom movie, which sucks, especially compared to the game, how that just did not work at all. And also hashtag not my BFG Doom movie. You suck.
All right. While Papa goes and shakes off some personal afflictions there.
I have
Clearly,
to
he is a
burn
man who loves his
most of my clothes now.
He loves his Doom. Chad, I will go to you. Hopefully, you were less personally hurt by that comment, but based off our arguments, who does your vote go to, and what sold you?
I think I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I actually haven't seen either of these movies, so I had to go with who sold me on the movie more and who I believed more. And I think I don't know if it's true, but Jordan really sold me. Jordan really sold me on like a really tense horror movie where you actually want to see the characters succeed and you're invested in them, and where Caleb really I wanted to vote for Caleb for a second because he was talking about like this badass movie with Carl Urban and The Rock, and I'm like, that sounds pretty awesome. But then Jordan had the great point where he was like, well, it's not well executed and it's so gimmicky that like regular people who don't super love video games like that probably wouldn't even enjoy it.
All right. And so with that, judges, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to go ahead and send you to the back because. And your winner by way of a score of 3-1, it is Jordan French Fries Owens.
Let's not make that a thing, by the way. That's just this once.
Is not escaping that nickname. I'm sorry.
No.
I have to.
I do love French fries though, so it's not the worst if it sticks.
It could be worse. If you come up with something better, we'll talk. All right. No.
Well, guy.
Jordan, great game, sir. Obviously pulling out the victory there. How are you feeling after that?
No, man, very, very happy. Shout out to Caleb, mashed potatoes. Good debate, good back and forth there. Had to come back swinging on that fourth round and try to seal the deal here. So good times, man. Thank you for anyone that helped write the questions, all the judges as well, man. Appreciate your times. Thanks for having me on here, man. And ready to debate again. I would say 0-2, 2-0 now.
Absolutely. Well, as this is a tournament, and with every match we lose a competitor, not only do you have a match soon, but the turnaround is going to be even just a little bit quicker. And in your next match, I cannot give you an exact opponent as of yet, but I can tell you will be playing the winner of the match between Alec Miller and Jeremy Adams. So my question to you is, what do you know about either of those competitors, and who would you prefer to play?
I believe they both have 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, and I'm looking to defeat any one of those sets. So good luck, gentlemen. Give it your best. Take one out, and I'll take out the other one.
And that's how you know he's a wrestling guy, because he can cut a promo just that easy. Jordan, I'm going to send you to the back. Thank you,
With
sir,
a tear
for being here.
in my eye. This is the greatest moment of my life. But not really. Top 20.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Honestly, yeah. I will take that.
Which would make my life very sad.
It would. It probably would. I'll say that as the creator. It would. We will see you next time as we'll go ahead and send you to the back and bring in Caleb Hansen. A well-fought battle, sir. You got a more traditional taste of what that's like off the back of a really weird first match.
No kidding.
You were here, and you still have a solid record there at 1-1. How are you feeling?
Like a little more drained than last time, that's for sure. This was a roller coaster, man. But no, I feel all right. A little disappointed that I managed to, to fall into that category where I'm gonna have to wait a long time to play again because I won and then lost. So I'm definitely not going to be in the tournaments or in either of the tournament brackets. So that kind of sucks, but I don't know. Like, I had fun. Apologies to Jordan for getting a little bit heated a couple of times. I was definitely getting red in the face. That guy is really good at, pushing my buttons, I guess. But it was. I had a lot of fun. I'm glad I did it. I wish I had done more homework, I guess, because man, Jordan just comes with it. I just got kind of rolled over. He's a much more aggressive opponent than I've faced before, and I don't know. It just happens. Absolutely. I had an off day. And again, like I said, these questions were way harder to, defend. Not to like make excuses, but like, man, like, I had to defend. I had to defend Doom. Like, it's a hard one to like.
No, you're fair. It absolutely is what it is. Unfortunately, for our competitors, this is a competition. For our viewers, this is entertainment, and sometimes we have to do things that we don't want to do, and by we I mean you guys.
Yeah. I mean, and like, hopefully it was entertaining. I don't know if it was or not. That was the whole point, is to have fun. And,
Jacob's face was worth it.
At the end of the day, I had fun.
I was entertained. Jacob's face was worth it.
Yeah.
You guys saw a tenth of what that face was.
That's true.
All right, Caleb. Well, I do look forward to having you back as soon as we can have you.
As soon as I can get in, I'm down to play again. This is a lot of fun.
All right, then we will see you then, sir, as I go ahead and send you to the back, guys, and that will be it. So at this point, we are about halfway through our 1-0 bracket. We are nearing the conclusion of the 0-1 bracket. That will be concluded next week in our double upload event. I still don't have a name for those. I probably should come up with one because branding is a thing that helps. But that will be concluded next week. But we have 3 more matches to go in the 1-0 bracket, including the match that will decide who plays Jordan Owens and Alec Miller and Jeremy Adams. I want to say thank you to all of you for watching. Please be sure to rate the video, comment, subscribe, interact with the channel, stick around for more Movie Battleground. I want to thank the 2 great competitors who were with us today, in Caleb Hansen and Jordan Owens. I want to thank our 3 great judges in Jacob West, Chris Diaz, and Chad Webb. And I want to thank all of you for being here and supporting us and continuing to be a part of this show as we work our way through a very long tournament. Eventually ends with us having a champion. But on behalf of myself and all my fellow producers here at Movie Battleground, my name is Aaron Knoll, and we'll see you guys next time on the Movie Battleground. Take care, everybody.